In the wake of so much global oppression and division, I'm reminded that self-love is the basis for all connection to love, and how desperate our world is for it. Love. The Golden Rule states that the highest principle of being is to treat others as you would have them treat you. All major religions have the same tenet expressed with various different words and phrases. Jesus summed up this premise in the phrase, "Know thyself," because he understood that it was impossible to extend to others that which you have withheld from yourself. And it is through self-knowing that we access truth, the truth that sets us free. Let me say it again. It is impossible to give away something that you yourself do not have first. To love others unconditionally means to love yourself that way first. Love, as well as all the divine attributes of God, exist as universes unto themselves, divine energies, if you will, for that is the nature of spirit energy, which is light and empty space. Access to these divine attributes can only be attained in one way, through the stargate of your own heart. We access the universe of love by tapping into the access point to it within our own heart, becoming the chalice for that energy signature to pour through us out into the world. By the very nature of being the chalice, we ourselves receive first that which is flowing through us. In essence, we are blessed by allowing the blessing of love to pour through our vehicle in service to another and to the whole. While you are simply the chalice, it is also correct to say that you are also the first relationship that this divine energy is affecting. In fact, you are your own testing ground for the integration of that attribute. When you apply it to yourself, you learn how to intrinsically understand what is required to apply it to someone outside of you. We access all other divine attributes the same way, such as compassion, safety, patience, divine will, etc. But what blocks our full access to these universes of the divine attributes of God is belief and conditioning, created and or reinforced by our own mind. We all have access to love and all other divine attributes equally with anyone else. What we often experience is that when we seek to give love, we are doing it in order to receive, because we ourselves are starving for it. We are giving in this way from our own limited reservoir of love within us, instead of tapping into the unlimited flow of it. And as such, our love is limited and conditional. It is our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, experiences, and perceptions about reality, about life, about God and ourselves that serve to throttle the amount of flow these essences have in our lives. It is completely natural for this to be so. As we experience pain, trauma, limitation, and restriction in our early life development, we experience separation from ourselves, from our true nature. We are conditioned into the belief that these parts of us do not fit into the boxes and molds of society, and thus we cut ourselves off from them. In doing so, we also create stories to help our minds understand the nature of this intense pain we are feeling, to categorize it, to understand it, so that we may go on. And it is the stories themselves that bind us in the experience of separation from that which we naturally and truly are, always connected to all of life, to God, and the energy of love. When you believe that you only have access to love through right behavior, or saying the right prayer of salvation, or by aligning yourself with a specific belief system, you are denying your own God-given access to love and all other divine attributes which exists within you, separate of any other access. It is actually a strategy of separation consciousness that is a part of the overlying matrix of programmed agreement over our planet. And your belief in it strengthens that field of consciousness in its grip over humanity. We are love. We come from love and will return to love. Nothing can separate us from the love of God outside of our own perception. Jesus is not the access point to the love of God, in the sense that without believing in Him as a Savior or as the Son of God, that we don't have access. But rather, Jesus did something on behalf of humanity, in that His own internal overcoming of His layers of human programming within His consciousness to tap into those universes of divine attributes. He, in fact, broke through a stuck place that humanity was trapped in. So He did it for Himself, but He also did it for all of humanity, for the whole. His access to that level of divine frequency made it possible for humanity to once again have access to it. And it brought about a shifting of planetary energies, so to speak. He shifted the goal line. By abdicating your salvation to Jesus, instead of accepting the clarion call to take up your own access to divine will, and to move towards your own revelation of sovereignty, which is spiritual maturity. You're essentially agreeing to remain in the slave matrix, an aspect of collective consciousness weaponized to keep you distracted by your own perception of separation, so that you never discover your own innate ability to create your own reality consciously. You're hearing a lot lately about manifestation and such, I'm sure. And many Christians believe that this is a new age thing or whatever. You are, in essence, creating separation between yourself and the laws of form and the principles of creation that exist and are at your disposal to work with, thus limiting your ability to create. The enemy uses fear-based structures to keep people in a sea of confusion, disconnected from their own internal guidance system that is always connected to the will of God. It is the natural state of every human being to have access to omniscience, psychic knowing, telepathy, physical sensitivity, etc. These abilities have been vilified as evil when they are equally as much a part of human design as our sight or smell or taste. They simply have not been developed in our modern world. In fact, it is also the demonization of emotions and the demonization of human sexuality, which keeps us separate from this knowing intelligence within our bodies. Let me ask you a question. Does it make any sense whatsoever, rationally, that we should be against, in any way, that which we are naturally? That somehow the way in which we were designed is inherently flawed and sinful? Does it make sense that a perfect being would make something imperfect? Or does it make more sense that through the vehicle of free will, we are allowed to create and reinforce the illusion of separation from God and love, in order that we might come back and discover our inherent truth that we are creating that illusion? And let me state, if you think you are not using human rationality to decide your beliefs and to reinforce beliefs that were given to you or handed down, you absolutely are. The true definition of integrity is not related to moral adherence or religious subjugation, but is this: when your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions are all the same, there is a structure of integrity. It is a manifestation of wholeness. It is a testimony against the narrative of separation and sin consciousness, and a demonstration of divinity shining through humanity. There's nothing wrong as a child of God in asking for help from the spirit realm, from Jesus, from angels. But when you put them in power over you, that they possess a power that you yourself do not have access to, you remain in a codependent expression of spirituality, which is truly spiritual infancy. The Bible uses the analogy of God as Father, Jesus as Brother, and Holy Spirit as our access to our own God power for a reason. Because the analogy of a family is such: as a father and a mother, you raise the child to be self-sufficient and mostly independent of you. Does that mean you're never there for them as an adult? No. But when your child is 5, you absolutely relate to them as such, from a level of attentiveness and patience that isn't the same when your child is 40 and you're still having to wipe their ass. Outside of a situation of disability, of course, then that's an indication that full development has not taken place. There is no judgment from God towards the soul as to how long it takes that soul to develop and grow. Yet, we can distinctively understand that there's a vast difference from the world of a 5-year-old and that of a 40-year-old as to what they can do, what's available to them, how they operate, function, and contribute in the world. This is a clear and obvious analogy of spiritual growth. This life is a journey of self-mastery. If you never apply any of the attributes of God to yourself, how is it you expect to walk in them? Do you expect a fairy angel or a godmother to appear out of nowhere with their magic wand and wave it over you and it's done? You learn healthy boundaries and right relation to others by navigating healthy boundaries within yourself. You yourself are a universe unto yourself with many, many, many different parts, many of which are still unknown to your conscious mind. If you don't listen to and protect your own heart from self-violation, you're not going to develop the muscle it takes to enforce that loving boundary outside of yourself. If you don't understand your own wants, needs, desires, shadows, design, skills, abilities, how can you possibly expect anyone outside of you to notice or acknowledge them? If you don't know it's your responsibility to be the mother and father of your own inner family of people, to help these aspects of self navigate their traumas and disappointments, to be in right relationship to their emotions, and to guide them into the release of all that isn't serving them, you're going to have a hell of a hard time creating that experience outside of yourself within your own family system. Judgment is a lower vibrational expression of integrity. Judgment is the gateway to the victim mind. It is built into us as a deep sensitivity to imperfection. Judgment is actually a frequency transmitted to us by our parents. If they were not able to emotionally transition into adulthood by being allowed to go through a natural questioning of the parents for the purpose of individuation, then we remain locked into this frequency of judgment, and at its core is victimhood. Most children never make this transition because of the structure of our world. It's not about how many emotions you feel per se, but rather by believing they are your judgments. They are your identity. Instead of being detached from them and seeing them as simply data points for observation from the soul level. The victim mind exists as collective negative thought energy patterns of humanity. I'll say it again. The victim mind exists as a collective negative thought energy pattern of humanity. When emotions arise that we judge as negative, that aren't allowed to be witnessed and cleanly pass through us, they get stuck in our field and attract to them the vibration of the collective judgment, which merges and expands that field within you. An external example would be when we see something outside of us that we don't like. We create blame and separation between us and that thing, person, event, etc., thinking that this is supporting the narrative of our adherence to moral or religious standards. But in all actuality, these emotions are simply meant to inform us, or this external example that we don't like is simply supposed to inform us that that same energetic vibration is also within us, asking to be seen. It means that our conscious mind is not yet aware of a hidden belief or viewpoint of separation, and it brings it up to our awareness for us to accept as part of ourselves, which then integrates it and releases the victim energy, coming back to a place of rest and peace. Complaining outwardly or inwardly about all aspects of our lives also attracts this collective field of victim energy to us. It says, I feel victimized by XYZ, whatever external event or circumstances have occurred, and I feel powerless to change it. While there's nothing wrong with this feeling, if we allow it to switch from I feel and I notice to I am victimized by XYZ, then we invite this collective judgment consciousness to take over as an aspect of our self-identity. In doing such, we will never experience full freedom from our own self-designed life lessons. It is impossible not to judge, as judgment is the way the human mind thinks. But the low frequency of victim mind is in identifying ourselves with the judgment, your judgments defining your identity. However, if you can make a judgment and at the same time be aware that you're making the judgment, you shift the frequency of your mind, attracting new possibilities. All judgment is rooted in opinion, The more you think you are your opinions and judgments, the more they will have influence over what you create in your life, whether consciously or unconsciously. You must loosen your identity with judgment and your need to be right to shift into a higher frequency expression of integrity. All judgment is self-judgment. To challenge another person is to create division within yourself, based in the lack of understanding that energetically we are all one. This doesn't mean we never challenge others. It means the other is holding up a mirror, giving us an opportunity to resolve something within us. Everything external in our lives is a mirror of an internal process seeking resolution. Passing cleanly through your own frequencies of fear that present themselves to you in the form of emotions, judgments, and opinions allows you to gain access to the higher frequencies of realization. Your outer life is your greater body. It is an extension of yourself that you are creating. The repressive nature of the shadow of judgment expresses itself as a perception of self-inferiority. This is often programmed through critical parents. Out of your own self-judgment, you become a conformist, going along to get along, instead of standing up for yourself and your individual internal convictions that are unique to you. All judgment is rooted in comparison, considering yourself as unfavorable compared to someone else. The reactive nature of this shadow of judgment expresses itself as superiority, the opposite expression. This expression is often formed when parents do not maintain strong enough boundaries around us, and they fall victim to their own self-judgments. This creates anger in the child that affects the ability to trust authority as integrous and a belief that they are above authority. In all three phases of our development, from birth to 21, we develop our physical, emotional, and mental judgments about the world. These code into us our orientation to it and serve as limitations from which we try to navigate life. The secret of integrity is being able to hold your own space without reacting to your judgments or self-judgments. Integrity is a deep physical attribute and is actually a function of your immune system and maintains the tensile strength in your body. It's important to learn what conditioned you in childhood in order to understand what has formed your deep judgments, so that you can consciously loosen the grip of these on your mind to shift you into the frequency of integrity. The gift of integrity, as expressed in the Gene Keys, is about demanding and maintaining a high standard in everything we do, and to challenge anything and anyone in love who does not meet our high standards. Now, these standards are not something we ever force onto others, but that we maintain for ourselves as an example, understanding that the truth by which another lives can be and may be different than yours, and equally valid and that your expression of your judgments and your truth through your own integrity is teaching others how to step into that for themselves. It's never forcing an outside definition of morality. That is a violation of free will. What is good and right for you in your path may not be good and right for another. And there simply is no judgment about this from God's point of view. It is man who sees through the lens of judgment. When this understanding truly seeps into your self-knowing, you realize the absolute expression of divine love is honoring free will above all else, and that your judgments about another soul's life journey is extremely limited. You are not seeing the whole picture. You do not know everything that they know, and you are projecting your own insecurities onto them in your judgment. But when you unequivocally allow yourself to truly be yourself without apology, when you practice unconditional love and acceptance for every part of yourself that comes to light, you become a beacon of integrity that shifts the frequency all around you, affecting who and what you draw into your life. This is truly what it means to create or manifest. We are doing it all the time. But unless you are doing it consciously, you are in a victim pattern of experiencing life happening to you instead of you co-creating your life. When we gift ourselves over and over again the experience of detaching from our judgments, learning what our conditioning is, through feeling and realizing all of our trauma and pain, we give ourselves the gift of self-healing, which leads to self-love. When we are not victimized by our own inner unconscious programming, we experience ourselves as powerful creators, feeling the bliss and gratitude of how it feels to live as our own true self without any compromise or comparison with others or judgment from others or ourselves. We are not like anyone else. And so the trained propensity to compare and judge is viral conditioning of a slave matrix. We are here to grow beyond it, to allow it to crumble by removing our agreement with it and by co-creating a new world, our own heaven on earth experiences, to co-create a new reality for all to experience as well. This is spiritual maturity. This is what Jesus demonstrated. This is what He is calling us towards. He is not coming back to do this for us in a codependent model. He is supporting us to do it for ourselves. This is spiritual adulthood, walking in the greater things He said we would do.